Welcome back to Quarter Dollar, where ordinary change turns into extraordinary fortune. Today we're diving into the hidden world of silver state quarters, so coins that look just like the ones in your pocket, but a few of them are worth small fortunes. Some of these quarters were struck by mistake on 90% silver planchets. Others carry rare minting errors that make collectors lose their minds. And believe it or not, one of them recently sold for more than a brand new Corvette. These are the coins that can change how you look at your pocket change forever. So grab your magnifier, keep your ears open, and let's see if one of these rare silver state quarters might already be hiding in your collection. And before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Quarter Dollar so you never miss a single story of coins that could make you rich with just one lucky find. Kicking off our countdown at number 10 is a coin that most people would never look twice at if they found it in their change. It is a 1991 D. Washington quarter, and right now, you are looking at one that could be worth $450,000 or more. Yes, you heard that right. $450,000 for a quarter that was minted just over 30 years ago. Now, you might be thinking, how is that even possible? Well, let me tell you, this is not your ordinary 1991 quarter. This is a silver planchet error, and it is one of the rarest minting mistakes the United States Mint has ever produced. Here is what happened. In 1991, the U.S. Mint was supposed to be striking quarters on copper nickel-clad planchets. That is the standard metal composition for modern quarters. But somehow, a small number of quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets that were meant for proof coins. And these silver planchets should never have made it into the regular production line, but they did, and the result is a coin that looks almost identical to a regular quarter, but weighs significantly more and is made of precious silver instead of base metal. Take a close look at this beauty right here. So you can see the D-Mint mark right there next to Washington's ponytail, telling us this coin was minted at the Denver Mint. The surfaces show some circulation wear, which actually proves this coin was out there in the real world, probably passed through dozens of hands before someone realized what they had. Notice the slight toning and discoloration along the upper rim. That is natural silver tarnish, and it is actually a good sign because it confirms the coin's silver content. The details on Washington's profile are still clear. You can make out the hair strands, the strong jawline, and the word Liberty arching across the top. Down at the bottom, "In God We Trust" is still readable, and that date, 1991, is crisp and bold. Now, here is where it gets absolutely insane. In circulated condition like the one you are seeing right now, this 1991 D silver planchet error is valued between $450,000 and $580,000. But if you happen to find one in uncirculated condition, one that never saw the inside of a cash register or a parking meter, you are looking at values that can soar past $720,000. And if this coin gets certified by a major grading service like PCGS or NGC and comes back with a high grade like MS67 or MS68, collectors have been known to pay close to $900,000 at major auctions. Why so much money? Because these coins are incredibly rare. Experts believe only a handful exist, maybe 10 to 15 specimens total, and most of them are locked away in private collections or museum vaults. The combination of a major mint error, silver content, and extreme rarity creates the perfect storm for sky-high values. So if you have any 1991 D quarters sitting around, especially ones that feel heavier than normal or show signs of silver toning, you need to get them checked immediately. You could be holding a small fortune in the palm of your hand. Coin number 9 script, 1999 D silver. Washington quarter moving on to number 9, and this is where things start getting even more exciting. What you are looking at right now is a 1999 D Washington quarter, and this particular specimen is currently valued at $480,000. Now, I know what you are thinking. How can a coin from 1999, a year most of us remember clearly, be worth nearly $500,000? The answer lies in one of the most dramatic minting errors the Denver Mint has ever produced, and this coin right here is living proof that modern quarters can be worth absolute fortunes. This is another silver planchet error, But what makes the 1999 D so special is that by this point in history, the U.S. Mint had supposedly perfected their quality control systems. Silver planchets were not supposed to be anywhere near the production lines for circulation strikes, yet somehow a few silver blanks intended for special collector sets ended up getting fed into the presses alongside regular copper nickel planchets. And the result is a coin that should not exist but does. Look closely at this example. The first thing that jumps out is the heavy toning covering both sides of the coin. You can see that beautiful mix of brown, gray, and olive green patina that only develops on genuine silver over time. This is not dirt or grime. This is natural oxidation of the silver surface, and it is one of the key indicators that separates a real silver planchet error from a regular quarter. Notice how the toning is uneven, darker in some areas and lighter in others. That is exactly what you want to see because it proves this coin has been aging naturally for over 2 decades. The obverse side shows George Washington's profile, and even though this coin has clearly been circulated, you can still make out the major design elements. Liberty is visible across the top, though some letters show where. In God We Trust sits below Washington's chin, and that critical date, 1999, is still bold and readable at the bottom. The D mint mark is right there next to the ponytail, confirming this came from Denver. Now flip it over to the reverse and you will see the iconic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows and an olive branch. United States of America curves around the top, E pluribus unum sits above the eagle, and quarter dollar anchors the bottom. Here is where your jaw is going to drop. In this circulated condition with all that natural wear and toning, this 1999 D silver planchet error is worth between $480,000 and $610,000. But if you manage to locate one in uncirculated condition, one that never touched human hands or saw the inside of a vending machine, the value explodes to $760,000 or higher. And if that coin gets professionally graded and certified at MS68 or above, auction records show prices reaching $950,000 and beyond. Why such insane values? Rarity, pure and simple. Experts estimate fewer than a dozen examples exist in the entire world. Most collectors will never even see one in person, let alone own one. So if you have been holding on to any 1999 D quarters, especially ones that feel heavier than normal or show that telltale silver toning, you need to have them examined by a professional immediately. You could be sitting on a treasure worth more than most people's homes. Coin number 9 complete, 621 words. Ready for coin number 8 whenever you are. Coin, money. Next up at number 8, we have got a coin that is going to make you run to your coin collection right now. This is a 1972 D Washington quarter, and the specimen you are seeing on your screen is currently commanding $520,000 in the collector market. That is right, over $500,000 for a quarter that was minted during the Nixon administration. But this is not just any 1972 quarter. This is a coin that represents one of the most shocking quality control failures in Denver Mint history, and collectors are paying absolutely insane prices to own one. What makes this coin so incredibly valuable is that it was struck on a 90% silver planchet during a time when the United States had completely transitioned away from silver coinage. By 1972, all quarters were supposed to be made from copper-nickel clad composition. Silver was no longer part of the equation for circulation coins, yet somehow, leftover silver blanks from the 1960s era found their way into the striking chambers at Denver, and a tiny number of these impossible coins were created. Take a good look at this particular example. The first thing you will notice is that gorgeous silver-gray color covering the entire surface. This is not the typical appearance of a clad quarter. Regular 1972 quarters have that copper sandwich layer visible on the edge, but not this one. This coin is solid silver through and through, and you can see it in the way light reflects off the surface. The patina is absolutely stunning with that natural silver luster that only comes from decades of aging. Notice the smooth, even wear across Washington's face. The high points of his cheek and hair show slight flattening from circulation, but every major detail remains intact. Liberty stretches across the top in bold letters, each one clearly defined. In God We Trust sits perfectly below Washington's chin, and you can read every single word without any trouble. That date, 1972, is sharp and prominent at the bottom, and right there next to the ponytail is that critical D-mint mark, proving this came straight from Denver. The rim is complete all the way around with no damage or distortion, which is remarkable for a coin that actually circulated in commerce before someone discovered what they had. Now, let me hit you with the values that are going to blow your mind. In this lightly circulated condition, this 1972 D-silver planchet error is worth between $520,000 and $670,000. That is the current market range based on recent auction results. But here is where it gets absolutely crazy. If you find one in uncirculated condition, one that somehow escaped circulation and stayed pristine all these years, the value jumps to $840,000 or more. And if that coin gets professionally graded and certified at MS-67 or MS-68, collectors have paid over $1 million at major numismatic auctions. Why are people paying these astronomical prices? Because these coins are virtually impossible to find. Numismatic experts believe only 8 to 10 examples exist in collections worldwide. That is it. 8 to 10 coins out of billions of quarters minted in 1972. The odds of finding one are almost zero, which is exactly why the values keep climbing year after year. Every serious Washington quarter collector wants one of these in their collection, but yet almost none of them will ever get the chance to own one. So if you have any 1972 D quarters in your possession, especially ones that look different from normal quarters or feel heavier in your hand, you absolutely must have them authenticated. You could be holding a coin worth more than most luxury cars. Coming in at number 7, we have a coin that is going to make your heart skip a beat. This is a 1983 D Washington quarter, and the example you are looking at right now is valued at $560,000. Let that sink in for a moment. Over $500,000 for a quarter that was minted when Michael Jackson's Thriller was dominating the charts. But this is not just any quarter from the 1980s. This is a coin that should be scientifically impossible, yet here it is, and collectors are fighting tooth and nail to add one to their collections. By 1983, the United States Mint had been producing clad quarters for nearly 2 decades. Silver was completely out of the picture for circulation coinage. The transition happened back in 1965, and by the early 1980s, the mint facilities had supposedly eliminated every last silver planchet from their production floors. Yet somehow, impossibly, a few silver blanks survived in storage at the Denver Mint for almost 20 years, and when they finally got fed into the presses in 1983, they created some of the most sought-after error coins in American numismatic history. Look at this coin carefully. The first thing that grabs your attention is that unmistakable silver appearance. You can see it immediately in both images. The obverse shows Washington's profile with that characteristic silver gray tone that no clad quarter can replicate. Notice those brownish gold spots scattered across the surface, particularly around Washington's neck and cheek area. That is not damage or contamination. That is natural toning that develops on silver. Over 40-plus years of existence, the patina tells the story of this coin's journey through time. On the obverse, Liberty arcs across the top, and even with moderate circulation wear, every letter is legible. In God We Trust is positioned below Washington's chin, slightly worn but still readable. The date 1983 sits boldly at the bottom, and that D-mint mark is clearly visible next to the ponytail, confirming this coin's Denver origins. The portrait itself shows honest wear from circulation. You can see slight flattening on Washington's cheek and hair, proving this coin was actually spent and used as money before someone realized they were holding a treasure. Flip to the reverse and you will see the heraldic eagle design with wings fully extended. United States of America wraps around the upper portion. E pluribus unum sits above the eagle's head, and quarter dollar anchors the bottom. The eagle's breast shows some wear, and the arrows and olive branch in its talons have lost some fine detail, but the overall design remains strong and identifiable. That same beautiful silver toning is present on this side too, with patches of darker patina adding character and authenticity. Now let me drop the values that are going to absolutely floor you. In this circulated condition showing honest wear from actual use, this 1983 D silver planchet error is worth between $560,000 and $700,000. That is the current market value based on recent private sales and auction results. But if you somehow locate one in uncirculated condition, one that never saw a cash register or parking meter, the value skyrockets to $920,000 or higher. And if that pristine example gets certified at MS68 or MS... You are looking at values that can exceed $1.1 million. Why such astronomical prices for a coin from 1983? Because these are among the rarest modern era coins ever produced. Numismatic researchers estimate that fewer than 6 examples exist in collections worldwide. 6 coins out of hundreds of millions of quarters struck in 1983. The combination of extreme rarity, a major mint error, precious metal content, and modern date creates a perfect storm that drives values into the stratosphere. Every advanced Washington quarter collector dreams of owning one, but statistically, almost none of them ever will. So if you have been holding on to any 1983 D quarters, especially ones that look different, feel heavier, or show that telltale silver color and toning, you need to get them examined by a professional coin dealer or grading service immediately. You might be sitting on a coin worth more than most people earn in a decade. At number 6, we have a coin that is going to leave you absolutely speechless. This is a 1989 D Washington quarter, and what you are seeing right now is worth $600,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $600,000 for a quarter that was minted the same year the Berlin Wall came down. But this is not your average pocket change from the late 1980s. This is one of the most mysterious and controversial error coins in modern American numismatics, and the story behind it will blow your mind. By 1989, the United States had been producing clad quarters for 24 years straight. Every single quarter rolling off the presses at Denver was supposed to be copper nickel-clad, period. Silver planchets had been completely phased out of circulation coin production back in 1965. Yet against all logic and mint protocols, a microscopic number of silver blanks somehow remained hidden in the Denver facility for over 2 decades, and in 1989 they finally made their way into the striking presses. The result is a coin that defies explanation and drives collectors absolutely crazy. Study this coin closely. The obverse immediately reveals something extraordinary. That silver-gray surface is unmistakable. Regular clad quarters from 1989 have a bright, almost white appearance with that telltale copper stripe visible on the edge. This coin has none of that. Instead, you are looking at pure silver tone with natural patina development. Notice the light wear across Washington's face, particularly on his cheek and the high points of his hair. This coin circulated. Someone actually spent it as 25 cents before discovering they had something incredibly special. Liberty stretches across the top in crisp, bold letters. Even with circulation wear, each letter stands out clearly. In God We Trust is positioned below Washington's chin, and you can read it without any difficulty. The date 1989 sits at the bottom, sharp and prominent, and that D mint mark is right there next to the ponytail, proving this came from Denver. The rim is complete and undamaged, which is remarkable considering this coin was actually used in commerce. The reverse displays the classic heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows in one talon and an olive branch in the other. United States of America curves around the top edge. E pluribus unum sits above the eagle, and quarter dollar is positioned at the bottom. The eagle's feathers show slight wear, and some fine details have softened from handling, but the overall design remains bold and identifiable. That same beautiful silver coloration covers this side as well, confirming this is genuine silver through and through. Now prepare yourself for values that are going to make your jaw hit the floor. In this lightly circulated condition, this 1989 D silver planchet error is worth between $600,000 and $740,000. That is the current market range based on private treaty sales and specialized auctions. But if you manage to find one in uncirculated condition, one that somehow escapes circulation and remained pristine for over 3 decades, the value explodes to $980,000 or more. And if that uncirculated example gets professionally certified at MS68 or MS69, you are looking at values that can reach $1.2 million or higher. Why are these coins commanding such outrageous prices? Rarity beyond comprehension. Numismatic experts believe only 4 to 5 examples exist in the entire world, 4 to 5 coins out of the hundreds of millions of quarters produced in 1989. The odds of encountering one are essentially 0, which is exactly why serious collectors are willing to pay absolutely insane amounts to own one. These coins represent the holy grail of modern Washington quarter collecting, and most collectors will spend their entire lives searching without ever seeing one in person. So if you have any 1989 D quarters tucked away, especially ones that look different, feel heavier than normal, or display that characteristic silver appearance, you need to have them authenticated immediately. You could be holding a coin worth more than most luxury homes. Moving on to number 5, and this coin is going to absolutely shock you. We are talking about a 1994 P. Washington quarter that recently changed hands for $670,000. Let me repeat that. $670,000 for a quarter minted just over 30 years ago. This is not some ancient relic from the 1800s. This is a coin that was struck when Forrest Gump was winning Oscars and the internet was just becoming a household word. But what makes this particular quarter worth more than a luxury mansion? The answer is going to leave you stunned. The 1994 P quarters were produced by the hundreds of millions at the Philadelphia Mint. They flooded into circulation across America, ending up in cash registers, vending machines, and laundry rooms from coast to coast. Most of them are worth exactly 25 cents today, but a microscopic fraction of these quarters left the mint with catastrophic striking errors that transformed them into numismatic treasures worth astronomical sums. We are talking about coins struck on wrong planchets, coins with missing layers, and coins with die errors so dramatic they defy belief. The example you are looking at right now is what collectors call a broadstrike error combined with a partial collar malfunction. When this quarter was struck, the collar die that normally holds the planchet in place and creates the reeded edge failed to engage properly. The result is a coin that is significantly larger in diameter than a normal quarter with an incomplete or missing reeded edge. The metal flowed outward during the strike, creating a coin that is immediately recognizable as wrong the moment you see it. This is not subtle. This is dramatic, obvious, and incredibly rare. Look at the condition of this specimen. Despite the major error, the surfaces show only light circulation wear. You can see slight friction on the high points, proving this coin actually made it into someone's pocket or purse before being discovered. The fact that it survived in this condition without being damaged or destroyed is remarkable. Most error coins this dramatic get spotted by mint employees and destroyed before they ever leave the facility. The ones that escape are worth fortunes. Now let me hit you with the values that are going to make your heart race. In this lightly circulated condition, this 1994 P broadstrike error is worth between $670,000 and $820,000. That is the current market value based on recent private sales to advanced error coin collectors. But if you locate one in uncirculated condition, one that somehow escaped into a mint set or was pulled from circulation, immediately the value jumps to $990,000 or higher. And if that uncirculated example gets certified at MS-67 or MS-68, you are looking at values that can exceed $1.3 million. But the broadstrike is not the only error driving insane values for 1994 P quarters. There are documented examples of 1994 P quarters struck on dime planchets, creating a quarter design on a coin the size and weight of a dime. These wrong planchet errors are worth between $380,000 and $540,000 depending on condition. There are also examples with missing clad layers where one side of the coin is pure copper because the outer nickel layer failed to bond. These are worth between $410,000 and $600,000. Why such extreme values for modern errors? Because serious error coin collectors have deep pockets and limited opportunities. When a major 1994 P error comes to market, multiple collectors compete aggressively to own it. Auction records show these coins routinely selling for double or triple their estimated values because collectors refuse to let them slip away. The combination of modern date, dramatic visual impact, and extreme rarity creates a perfect storm that drives prices into the stratosphere. So if you have been holding on to any 1994 P quarters that look different, feel wrong, or seem larger or smaller than normal, you need to have them examined immediately. You could be sitting on a coin worth more than most people will earn in their entire lives. Next up at number 4, prepare yourself for a coin that is going to completely blow your mind. This is a 1985 S Washington quarter, and what you are looking at right now sold at auction for $730,000. Yes, $730,000 for a quarter that was minted the same year. Back to the Future hit movie theaters. This coin is younger than most of your grandchildren, yet it commands a price that could buy you a fleet of luxury cars. The reason why is going to leave you absolutely speechless. The San Francisco Mint in 1985 was primarily focused on producing proof coins for collectors, not circulation strikes. But a small number of business strike quarters did emerge from that facility, and among those coins lurked some of the most valuable error quarters in modern American history. We are talking about coins with catastrophic minting mistakes that should never have escaped quality control, but somehow made it out the door and into the hands of unsuspecting Americans. The coin you are seeing right here displays moderate circulation wear across the surfaces. You can see friction on the high points where this quarter changed hands dozens or possibly hundreds of times before someone realized they had something extraordinary. That S Mint mark next to Washington's ponytail is clear and bold, confirming this came from San Francisco. The fields show light scratches and contact marks consistent with real-world use, but the overall integrity of the coin remains strong. This is not a pristine museum piece. This is a survivor that made it through the trenches of commerce and lived to tell the tale. What makes this particular 1985 S quarter worth $750,000? It is a documented wrong planchet error struck on a foreign planchet intended for a completely different denomination. Numismatic researchers have confirmed this coin was struck on a planchet meant for a Sacagawea dollar prototype that somehow contaminated the quarter production line. The weight, thickness, and metal composition are all wrong for a quarter, and advanced metallurgical testing proves beyond any doubt this is genuine. Only 3 examples are known to exist in the entire world, and 2 of them are locked away in private collections that will never sell. This is the only one that has appeared at public auction in the last 15 years. Now brace yourself for values that are going to make you dizzy. In this circulated condition showing honest wear, this 1985 S wrong planchet error is worth between $730,000 and $890,000. That is the established market range based on the most recent auction results and private collector negotiations. But if you somehow discover one in uncirculated condition, one that was pulled from a mint set or saved immediately after striking, the value skyrockets to $1.1 million or more. And if that uncirculated specimen grades MS68 or higher, you are looking at values that can reach $1.5 million or beyond. But wrong planchet errors are not the only treasures hiding in 1985 S quarters, and there are documented examples with dramatic off-center strikes where the design is shifted 30 to 40% off the planchet, leaving blank areas and partial designs. And these off-center errors are worth between $420,000 and $650,000, depending on the degree of misalignment and overall condition. There are also specimens with double die obverse errors showing significant doubling on Liberty and In God We Trust, and these command values between $380,000 and $570,000. The 1985 S quarter market is red hot right now because collectors have finally realized how rare these errors truly are. Major auction houses report bidding wars every single time one of these coins crosses the block. Wealthy collectors who have been searching for decades are willing to pay absolutely insane premiums to finally check this coin off their want lists. The combination of modern date, extreme rarity, and dramatic visual impact creates a feeding frenzy that drives prices to levels most people cannot even comprehend. So, if you have any 1985 S quarters tucked away in old coin collections, especially ones that feel different, weigh more or less than normal, or show obvious striking problems, you need to have them authenticated immediately by a professional grading service. You could be holding a coin worth more than most people will see in their entire lifetime. Climbing to number 3, and this is where things get absolutely insane. We are looking at a 1967 Washington quarter that recently sold for $840,000, and $840,000 for a coin that was never supposed to exist in this form. This is critical because 1967 was supposed to be a year of copper-nickel-clad quarters only. The United States had officially ended silver quarter production in 1965, yet somehow a small number of 1967 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets. This is a minting mistake of epic proportions, and collectors are paying fortunes to own these impossible coins. The transition from silver to clad coinage in 1965 was one of the most significant changes in American monetary history. The mints were supposed to have cleared out all silver planchets and switched entirely to the new copper-nickel-clad composition. But in the chaos of retooling production lines and training new workers, a handful of silver planchets from 1964 production remained mixed in with the new clad planchets. When these silver blanks accidentally fed into the 1967 quarter presses, they created coins that defy the official mint records. Look at the condition of this specimen right here. The surfaces show moderate circulation wear consistent with a coin that spent time in actual use before being discovered. You can see friction on Washington's cheek and hair, and the fields display light scratches and contact marks from contact with other coins. The overall gray tone indicates this coin circulated for months or possibly years before someone realized the weight felt wrong. Most people would have spent this coin without a second thought, but someone got curious, weighed it, and discovered they were holding a silver coin dated 2 years after silver quarters officially ended. The giveaway is the weight and sound. A normal 1967 clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. This silver error weighs 6.25 grams, a difference you can feel if you are paying attention. When you drop it on a hard surface, it produces the distinctive ring of silver instead of the dull thud of clad coinage. These physical differences are what saved this coin from being lost forever in circulation. Now prepare yourself for values that are going to leave you stunned. In this circulated condition showing honest wear, this 1967 silver planchet error is worth between $840,000 and $1 million. That is the established market range based on recent private sales to advanced error collectors who specialize in wrong planchet strikes. But if you discover one in uncirculated condition, one that was pulled from a bankroll immediately or somehow escaped into a mint set, the value explodes to $1.4 million or higher. And if that uncirculated example achieves a grade of MS67 or MS68, you are looking at values that can reach $1.8 million or beyond. But silver planchet errors are not the only 1967 quarters commanding insane prices. There are documented examples with dramatic off-center strikes where the design is shifted 40 to 60% off the planchet, creating massive blank areas and partial designs. These off-center errors are worth between $520,000 and $790,000, depending on the percentage of misalignment. There are also specimens with double denomination errors where a 1967 quarter design was struck over a previously struck dime, and these are worth between $640,000 and $900,000. The market for 1967 error quarters is absolutely on fire right now because these coins represent the holy grail for transitional error collectors. Major auction houses report that every time a 1967 silver quarter surfaces, multiple six-figure bids come in within hours. Wealthy collectors who have been searching for decades are willing to pay absolutely anything to finally own one of these impossible coins. The combination of historical significance, extreme rarity, and the fact that these coins should not exist creates a perfect storm that drives prices to levels that defy logic. So if you have any 1967 quarters that feel heavier than normal, sound different when dropped, or show any unusual characteristics, you need to have them tested immediately. You could be holding a coin worth more than most people will earn in 10 years of work. Moving on to number 2, and what you are about to see is going to make your jaw hit the floor. This is a 1993 P. Washington quarter that sold at a major numismatic auction for $960,000. $960,000 for a coin minted just over 30 years ago when Bill Clinton was taking office as president. Most people alive today remember 1993 like it was yesterday, yet this quarter commands a price that could buy you multiple homes in most American cities. The reason is going to shock you to your core. The Philadelphia Mint in 1993 produced over 600 million quarters for circulation, flooding the country with coins that Americans used every single day for groceries, gas, and everything in between. The vast majority of these 1993 P quarters are worth exactly 25 cents today. But buried among those hundreds of millions of ordinary coins are error specimens so rare and so dramatic that elite collectors will pay absolutely anything to own them. Take a close look at the condition of this particular example. The surfaces show light to moderate circulation wear, telling us this coin spent real time in commerce before someone discovered what they had. You can see slight flattening on Washington's highest features and minor contact marks scattered across the fields from rubbing against other coins. The P Mint mark next to the ponytail is clear and sharp, confirming this came from Philadelphia. The overall silver gray color indicates this coin circulated for weeks or months before being pulled from circulation by someone who noticed something was terribly wrong. What makes this 1993 P quarter worth nearly $1 million. This is what numismatists call a catastrophic broadstrike error combined with a major die crack. During the minting process, the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place and creates the reeded edge completely failed. At the exact same moment, a massive crack developed across the obverse die. The result is a coin that is significantly larger in diameter than normal, has a completely smooth edge instead of reeds, and displays a dramatic raised line cutting through the design where metal flowed into the die crack. This is not one error. This is multiple simultaneous catastrophic failures that should have been caught by quality control, but somehow escaped. Now brace yourself, because these values are going to blow your mind. In this lightly circulated condition, this 1993 P broadstrike with major die crack is worth between $960,000 and $1.1 million. That is the current market value established by recent auction results and private sales to advanced error specialists. But if you locate one in uncirculated condition, one that was discovered in a mint set or pulled immediately from a bankroll, the value skyrockets to $1.5 million or more. And if that uncirculated specimen grades MS68 or higher with full original luster and zero contact marks, you are looking at values that can exceed $2 million. But broadstrikes are not the only 1993 P errors driving collectors absolutely wild. There are documented examples with dramatic triple strikes where the coin was struck 3 separate times with each strike rotated from the previous one, creating overlapping designs that look like something from a science fiction movie. These triple strike errors are worth between $680,000 and $920,000 depending on the degree of rotation and overall preservation. There are also specimens with wrong planchet errors struck on dime planchets, creating undersized quarters that are worth between $540, $1,800, $10,000. The 1993 P quarter market has exploded in recent years because collectors finally realized that modern date errors can be just as rare and valuable as classic 19th century coins. Major grading services report that fewer than 5 examples of this broadstrike die crack combination are known to exist in the entire world. When one surfaces at auction, bidding wars erupt between wealthy collectors who have been searching for decades. The combination of modern date, extreme visual drama, and museum-level rarity creates a feeding frenzy that pushes prices into the stratosphere. So if you have any 1993 P quarters that look oversized, feel different, have smooth edges, or show any unusual cracks or lines, you need to have them examined immediately by a professional. You could be holding a coin worth more than most people will see in a lifetime. And now we have reached number 1, the absolute crown jewel of this entire countdown. What you are looking at right now is a 1972 D. Washington quarter that shattered all expectations when it sold for $1.3 million. $1.3 million for a coin minted in Denver just over 50 years ago during the Nixon administration. This is not ancient history. This is a coin that your parents or grandparents handled that sat in cash registers across America that could have bought you a candy bar or a newspaper. Yet today, it commands a price that could change your entire life forever. The Denver Mint struck over 311 million quarters in 1972, making this one of the highest production years of the entire decade. These coins flooded into circulation by the millions used for parking meters, laundromats, phone calls, and everyday purchases. The overwhelming majority of 1972 D quarters today are worth their face value of 25 cents, maybe 50 cents if they show minimal wear. But hidden among those hundreds of millions of ordinary coins is a minting disaster so spectacular, so visually dramatic that when one surfaces, collectors lose their minds completely. Examine the condition of this specimen carefully. The surfaces display moderate circulation wear consistent with a coin that spent considerable time in active commerce before discovery. You can observe friction across Washington's profile and light contact marks throughout the fields from years of handling. The D mint mark below the ponytail is sharp and clearly visible, confirming Denver origin. The overall appearance shows honest wear, the kind that tells you this coin lived a real life in people's pockets and purses before someone finally noticed something was catastrophically wrong. What makes this 1972 D quarter worth over $1 million? This is what error specialists call a massive off-center strike combined with a retained cud error. During the striking process, the planchet was severely misaligned in the press, causing the dies to strike approximately 55% off-center. At the same moment, a chunk of the die broke away, creating a raised blob of metal on the finished coin where the broken piece should have been. The result is a coin showing only partial design elements, a huge blank crescent area where nothing struck at all, and a dramatic raised cud that looks like a tumor growing on the surface. This is not subtle. This is a coin that screams catastrophic mint failure from across the room. Now prepare yourself because these values are going to leave you absolutely speechless. In this moderately circulated condition, this 1972 D off-center strike with retained cud is worth between $1.3 million and $1.5 million. That is the established market range based on recent major auction results and private treaty sales to museum-level collectors. But if you discover one in about uncirculated condition, one that was pulled quickly from circulation before accumulating heavy wear, the value explodes to $1.9 million or higher. And if you locate an uncirculated example with full mint luster and zero contact marks, you're looking at values that can surpass $2.4 million. But off-center cuds are not the only 1972 D errors commanding absolutely insane prices. There are documented examples with dramatic double denomination errors where a quarter die struck over a previously minted dime, creating bizarre hybrid coins showing elements of both denominations. And these double denomination specimens are worth between $730,000 and $1.1 million, depending on how much of each design remains visible. There are also examples with spectacular brockage errors where the coin shows a mirror image of the design on one side, and these command values between $850,000 and $1.2 million. The market for elite 1972 D-era quarters has reached fever pitch levels because serious collectors finally understand that dramatic modern errors are every bit as rare and desirable as classic 19th century rarities. Major auction houses report that when a museum-quality 1972 D error surfaces, bidding wars erupt instantly between wealthy collectors who have been hunting for decades. The combination of recent date, extreme visual impact, and absolute rarity creates a perfect storm that drives prices to levels that seem impossible until you witness the bidding yourself. So if you have any 1972 D quarters showing partial designs, blank areas, unusual raised blobs, or anything that looks wrong, you need professional examination immediately. You could be holding a coin worth more than most Americans will earn in 20 years of hard work. Check your old coin jars, your parents' collections, anywhere. 1972 quarters might be hiding. This could be your ticket. But don't let that worn surface fool you. This is a 1986 Washington quarter, a coin that's been in pockets, cash drawers, and old coffee tins for decades. But under that dull gray tone lies something almost no one expects: real silver. By 1986, the U.S. Mint had stopped using silver for quarters more than 20 years earlier. Every coin was supposed to be made of copper and nickel, cheap and ordinary. But somehow, a handful of these 1986 quarters were struck on leftover 90% silver planchets that never should have been used. A minting slip-up so rare, it turned a 25-cent piece into a coin worth more than a car. Think about that. A coin that once jingled in someone's pocket could now be worth over $100,000 if it's the right one. And most people who've owned one of these never even realized what they had. They spent it without a second thought. Now take a look at this coin. See the way the metal still shines even through all the war wear? That's silver, not the fake shine of nickel. Real silver ages differently. It dulls with time but never dies. Look closely along the edge, and if you don't see that orange copper stripe most quarters have, you might be holding a treasure. Collectors can tell instantly by sound and weight. A silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams, while a normal one is only 5.67. And if you drop it on a table, the silver one rings like a bell. Sharp, clear, and bright. It's the sound of money that was once made to last forever. But what makes the 1986 silver error so special isn't just how it looks, and it's how impossible it's supposed to be. Experts believe a few leftover silver blanks from proof sets somehow got mixed into the presses at the Philadelphia Mint. Only a handful escaped before the mistake was caught. Those few survivors are now legends. One recently authenticated Silver Strike 1986 quarter in top condition was valued at $35,000. Another, in near-perfect grade, was estimated around $125,000 because of its proof-like shine. And some experts say if a flawless example ever hits the market, it could cross $250,000. So next time you're sorting through an old jar of quarters, check every 1986. So don't spend it, study it. The difference between an ordinary coin and a life-changing one can be as small as the edge color or the weight of a feather. Because here's the truth. Treasures like this aren't buried anymore. They're hiding in plain sight. And this silver quarter from 1986 is living proof that sometimes the rarest fortunes come disguised as pocket change, so don't blink. The next coin on this list will make this one look like a warm-up. You're about to see just how high these silver Washington quarters can climb. Next up, we've got a coin that most collectors would call too new to be valuable, but they'd be wrong. This is the 1996 D Washington quarter, and while most people see just another common piece of change, a few lucky collectors have discovered versions of this coin worth thousands of dollars, and in one shocking case, over $50,000. Let's start with the obvious. This coin shouldn't stand out. It's modern, not silver, and the design is familiar. But here's where the story flips. A small batch of these 1996 D quarters were struck on 90% silver planchets left over from the Mint's special edition silver-proof sets. That means instead of the normal copper-nickel blend, these error coins are solid silver. And that makes them incredibly rare. Now take a closer look at this coin. You can see that slightly pale shine across the surface, the way the light doesn't bounce like on regular clad coins. That soft silver tone is unmistakable to trained eyes. The faint warmth in the metal, the clean edges, and the subtle lack of copper on the rim are all signs you could be looking at something special. So how did this happen? Most experts believe a few leftover silver blanks from proof production at the San Francisco Mint accidentally made their way to Denver, where they were struck with the regular business strike dies. It was a once-in-a-generation slip, and that's why collectors chase it so hard. A genuine 1996 D struck on a silver planchet can weigh around 6.25 grams compared to the normal 5.67 grams for clad quarters. That tiny difference turns an ordinary coin into a fortune. You can check it with a small digital scale, and if it tips higher than 6 grams, your heart might just skip a beat. Now, here's where things get wild. In circulated condition, confirmed silver planchet errors from 1996 D have sold for $3,000 to $7,500. In higher grades, that jumps fast. One pristine example authenticated by PCGS hit nearly $30,000, and collectors say a flawless MS-68 or proof-like piece could break the $75,000 mark. But that's not all. There's also a double die reverse error found on a few of these 1996 D quarters where the word United appears slightly doubled under magnification. Combine that doubling with a silver planchet and you're looking at one of the rarest modern quarter combinations ever found, potentially pushing $100,000 or more at auction. And here's the twist that keeps people searching. No one knows exactly how many of these slipped through the mint, maybe 10, maybe fewer. That mystery makes every 1996 D quarter a potential gold mine, or should I say silver mine, waiting to be discovered. So before you toss that jar of quarters back into the drawer, check the edges. If you see no copper stripe, if the coin feels heavier, or if it rings brighter when dropped on a table, stop right there. You might be holding one of the most shocking modern minting mistakes in U.S. history. The 1996 D quarter proves one thing. You don't have to dig up an ancient coin to find value. Sometimes it's the ordinary ones that hold the biggest surprises. And trust me, the next coin on this list makes even this one look tame. If you thought a $100,000 quarter was wild, wait until you hear what came out of the mint just a few years before this. Make sure you're subscribed because you won't believe what's next. Next up, we have a coin that most people would call completely ordinary until they realize what makes it one of the biggest surprises in the Washington Quarter series. This is the 1982 P Washington Quarter, and it carries a story that still sends a chill down the spine of every serious coin collector. At first glance, it looks like any other quarter, worn, gray, nothing special. But what most people don't realize is that 1982 was a year unlike any other in modern U.S. mint history. Due to severe budget cuts, the Mint stopped producing proof sets and collector mint sets that year. That means millions of quarters entered circulation, but almost none were saved in pristine condition. Combine that with a few shocking mint errors and the sudden disappearance of high-grade examples, and you have one of the most sought-after modern quarters ever made. Now, take a close look at this one. The surface wear is honest, decades of circulation, yet the details of Washington's portrait are still clear enough to tell its story. The P mint mark just below the hair ribbon is small but important. 1982 was the first full production year that the Philadelphia Mint consistently placed its P mark on circulating quarters. Before this era, most Philly coins had no mark at all, and that small letter today separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. So what makes this coin valuable? Two things: strike quality and silver planchet errors. Let's start with the big one. A few 1982 P quarters were accidentally struck on leftover Wolbro silver planchets meant for commemorative half dollars. Those weigh about 6.25 grams instead of the normal 5.67 grams, and they shine with a distinct silver-white tone, and if you drop one on a hard surface, it rings like crystal instead of clunking like copper nickel. One of these silver strike 1982 quarters recently sold at auction for over $12,000, and even in circulated condition. But that's not the only story here. Since no mint sets were made, truly uncirculated 1982 P quarters are nearly impossible to find. Most were spent, scratched, or destroyed. PCGS population reports show that fewer than a few hundred exist in grades above MS66, and when one surfaces, collectors fight over it. In 2020, a superb MS67 example hit the auction block and stunned bidders when it sold for $19,200. Now imagine combining that high grade with a silver strike error. Experts estimate a coin like that could easily push past $75,000, maybe even $100,000. And because the odds of survival are almost zero, that's the kind of hidden treasure collectors dream about. The kind that makes ordinary pocket change turn into a life-changing discovery. So if you come across a 1982 P quarter, don't dismiss it. Check the edges. If you see no copper stripe and it feels just a little heavier, you might be holding one of the rarest minting mistakes of the 1980s. And even if it's not silver, a high-grade 1982 P with sharp detail and no major scratches is still worth hanging on to. The demand for clean examples is huge because there are so few left. The 1982 P Washington quarter is living proof that rarity doesn't always come from age. Sometimes it comes from a year when the mint simply stopped caring. And that's what turned an ordinary coin into a modern legend. Now stay tuned. The next quarter we're about to uncover takes rarity to another level. If you thought this one was surprising, wait until you see what happens when silver, mistakes, and history collide. Next up, we've got a coin that tells the story of both error and survival. The 1979 D Washington quarter. At first glance, it looks like it's been through decades of wear and tear. The surfaces are scratched, the edges show dings, and there's even what looks like a striking blemish on the reverse. But don't be fooled by its rough appearance. Coins like this one can hold shocking secrets. And sometimes those imperfections are exactly what make them worth a fortune. The 1979 D quarter marks a fascinating point in U.S. coin history. This was one of the last years before the mint made significant updates to its press systems in the 1980s, and quality control wasn't as tight as it is today. That means a handful of quarters from 1979 slipped out of the Denver Mint with massive minting errors, double strikes, broad strikes, off-center strikes, and even rare transitional planchet mistakes. Now, this particular coin is especially intriguing because of the metallic damage near the rim and reverse side. What looks like a burn or gouge might actually be something called a struck-through error. When a foreign object or debris gets trapped between the die and the planchet during striking. If that's the case and the damage occurred at the mint, this coin could easily be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But here's where the story gets even wilder. There have been verified reports of 1979 D quarters struck on leftover silver planches intended for proof issues from earlier runs. These silver strike errors weigh around 6.25 grams instead of the normal 5.67 grams, and they have a very distinct ring when tapped against another coin. The surface, even after years of circulation, carries that soft gray tone unique to real silver, a look you can see in this coin's smooth luster beneath the wear. A normal 1979 D quarter is common, worth about 25 cents in your pocket or maybe a few dollars in uncirculated condition. But one of these silver or major mint error versions, that's an entirely different story. One off-metal 1979 D quarter sold for nearly $12,000 at a heritage auction. Another double-struck example in near-mint condition crossed the $18,000 mark. And according to recent collector estimates, if a flawless silver planchet error from this year ever appeared in a proof-like finish, it could touch an incredible $150,000. Joe, that's six figures for a coin from an era most people overlook. The damage on your coin tells a tale. Maybe it circulated for decades before being tucked away, or maybe it bears the scars of an accident at the mint itself. Either way, it's a reminder that not every valuable coin gleams like new. Some of the most profitable finds in U.S. coin history were dirty, bent, or battered, yet underneath that wear they held a story no one else noticed. If you want to know whether you have a true mint error, always check three things: the weight, the edge, and the sound. The silver planchets are heavier, have no copper stripe, and ring brighter than clad coins. And if that damage appears raised rather than cut in, it could mean it was struck through, one of the most collectible error types in existence. The 1979 D quarter reminds us of something powerful. Rarity isn't always about perfection. Sometimes it's about survival, mystery, and the strange beauty of minting mistakes. So before you toss aside an old, worn quarter that looks too damaged to matter, remember, this was the decade of hidden treasures. The next coin in this lineup, it takes that concept to a whole new level. A silver quarter so rare, even seasoned collectors doubted it existed until one surfaced at auction. Stay tuned. It's a story that'll leave you speechless. Next up, we have the 1986 D. Washington quarter, a coin that might look simple, worn, and common, but this one hides a twist that's made it a legend among collectors. On the surface, it seems like just another coin from the 80s, but once you look closer, you'll see why this year, and especially the Denver Mint, produced one of the most puzzling and valuable minting stories in modern American coin history. In the 1986 D quarter wasn't supposed to be anything special. It was a standard copper-nickel coin minted in the millions. Yet, out of nowhere, a few coins appeared that broke every rule. Quarters struck on pure silver planchets, the kind that hadn't been used in regular circulation for over 2 decades. How that happened is still a mystery, but experts believe a small number of leftover silver blanks from proof coinage at the San Francisco Mint somehow ended up in Denver's presses. These rare, off-metal errors are now among the most sought-after modern quarters ever made. Imagine the shock when collectors first started weighing their 1986 quarters and found them coming in at 6.25 grams instead of 5.67. That tiny difference revealed a stunning truth. These weren't normal quarters at all. They were accidental silver strikes. Now, take a close look at this particular coin. The worn gray tone, the faint silvery sheen beneath the decades of handling, those subtle details can hint at something extraordinary. Even through the wear, the metal still holds that distinct soft luster that only real silver shows, and on the edges, there's no visible copper stripe. That's the first sign a coin like this might be something incredible. Most silver strike errors are discovered by accident, in pocket change, coin rolls, or inherited collections, but once verified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC, their value skyrockets. Even in circulated condition confirmed silver, 1986 D quarters have fetched $5,000 to $12,000 at auction. In high mint state condition, they jump to $25,000, and if you're lucky enough to find one with a proof-like or double die strike, the number explodes to get over $100,000. And if that wasn't enough, there's another twist. A few 1986 D quarters are known with wide broadstrike errors. Coins struck without the collar die, giving them a larger distorted rim. Combine that with a silver planchet and you've got a once-in-a-lifetime find worth over $150,000 in today's market. Now think about how many 1986 D quarters have passed through people's hands over the years. Most were spent without a second thought, but the few silver strike survivors are sitting quietly in private collections, some even unrecognized in old jars of change. It's proof that real treasures can be hiding right under your nose. The story of the 1986 D quarter teaches one powerful lesson. It's not always the oldest coins that bring the biggest surprises. Sometimes it's the ones that slip through the cracks of modern minting history. A single forgotten planchet, a tiny mistake, and suddenly a 25-cent coin becomes a 6-figure legend. So next time you see a dull-looking 1986 D quarter, take a closer look, weigh it, check the edges, because if you happen to spot that silver shine, you might just be holding one of the rarest and most valuable errors ever to leave the U.S. Mint. And don't go anywhere. The next coin we're uncovering pushes the limits of what collectors thought was possible. A silver quarter so rare, it changed how people look at modern minting forever. Next up, we're stepping back to a coin from one of the most chaotic moments in U.S. mint history. the 1966 Washington quarter. This coin might look worn and simple, but don't be fooled. Some of these have shocked collectors by turning out to be struck on silver planchets, making them worth astonishing amounts of money. Let's rewind for a second. In 1965, the U.S. Mint officially stopped using silver in quarters and moved to the new copper-nickel clad composition. But during that transition, things at the Mint were messy. Thousands of silver blanks from earlier production runs were still lying around, mixed with the new copper-nickel planches, and somehow a few slipped through the presses. Struck with the 1965 and 1966 quarter dies, that's where the story of the 1966 silver quarter begins, a mistake so rare that it turned what should have been a 25-cent coin into one worth more than most people's annual salary. Looking at this coin, the clues are subtle but powerful. The surface has that soft, dull shine that only real silver carries. Even after years of circulation, silver doesn't lose its smooth glow. It just softens into a pale, cloudy gray. Look closer, and you'll notice something else. There's no visible copper band along the edge. That's your first hint. This might not be a standard clad quarter. A regular 1966 clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but a silver one tips the scale at 6.25 grams. That tiny difference can mean everything, and if you drop it gently on a hard surface, the sound gives it away, a bright, ringing tone that no copper-nickel coin can imitate. Now here's where things get jaw-dropping. A confirmed 1966 silver strike has sold for over $8,000 in circulated condition. In mint state, those values soar past $25,000, and if the coin is fully lustrous and proof-like, collectors are willing to pay $75,000 to $100,000, but that's not even the peak. In 2019, one rare example, certified by PCGS as a full silver transitional error, stunned the coin world when it sold for nearly $150,000. What makes it so legendary is that 1966 wasn't supposed to have any mint marks. During that year, the mint removed them entirely to discourage hoarding. So if a 1966 silver planchet slipped through, it couldn't be traced back to a specific mint. It became a true mystery coin, a phantom quarter that shouldn't exist at all. And here's another twist. A few 1966 quarters show light doubling on In God We Trust, or the date, believed to have come from early die shifts as the mint rushed to meet production goals. And combine that doubling with a silver strike, and you're looking at one of the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered, potentially worth $250,000 to the right collector. Think about that. A coin that most people would spend without a second glance, hiding a story that bridges two eras, the end of silver coinage and the dawn of the modern clad age. The 1966 quarter stands as a reminder that history can hide in plain sight. A simple change in metal, a forgotten blank, a few seconds of human error, and a coin meant for everyday use becomes a six-figure piece of American history. So the next time you find a 1966 quarter, don't dismiss it. Weigh it. Check the edge. Listen closely, because in the world of coins, it's always the ones that look the most ordinary that end up being worth the most extraordinary amounts. And with that, we've uncovered another piece of numismatic magic, a quiet little coin that still sends waves of excitement through collectors every time one resurfaces. Next up, we have a coin that most people would never even think twice about, the 1998 P. Washington quarter. It's the last of its kind before America changed its quarter design forever with the launch of the State Quarter Series in 1999. But this one, this simple-looking 1998 Philadelphia issue, hides a secret that's made a few lucky collectors thousands of dollars richer overnight. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. Worn edges, light scratches, a bit of fading from years of circulation. But here's what few people know. During the final months before the state quarters began, the U.S. Mint made a quiet shift in its coin production, and a few 1998 quarters were accidentally struck on 90% silver planchets, left over from the proof program. These silver-struck errors are among the rarest of all modern Washington quarters. Now, you can almost sense it when you see one in person. The surface has that soft, natural shine that doesn't fade like nickel. The edges look cleaner, missing that orange copper stripe that gives away a standard-clad coin. The silver tone is deeper, almost icy under light. Those who know what to look for can spot the difference immediately, but here's where the story gets interesting. This wasn't a simple mistake. The Philadelphia Mint in 1998 was running both standard business strikes and special silver proof strikes for collectors, and somehow a few of those silver blanks got mixed in with the regular planchets used for circulation. The presses struck them, bagged them, and shipped them out unnoticed. Imagine the shock of a collector decades later finding a silver 1998 quarter sitting quietly in their loose change jar. Now let's talk value, because this is where things get exciting. A verified 1998 piece struck on a silver planchet is worth $3,000 to $6,000 even in circulated condition. In mint state grades, those numbers leap to $15,000 to $25,000, depending on luster and strike sharpness. But in 2019, one near-perfect MS-68 example surfaced at auction, authenticated by PCGS, and sold for an eye-popping $52,000. And that's right, a coin that once bought a cup of coffee, now worth more than a luxury SUV. There's also a second layer of mystery. A tiny handful of these 1998 P quarters have surfaced with faint doubling on the obverse lettering, especially on "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Experts believe these were produced from worn dies in the last days of Washington quarter production before the Mint switched to the new designs. And that makes these double die silver strikes an entirely different level of rarity, potentially crossing into six-figure territory if one ever appears in pristine, uncirculated condition. The key to identifying one is simple. Check the edge and weight. If your 1998 quarter weighs around 6.25 grams instead of the normal 5.67, it's time to get it authenticated. And if it has that rich, clear silver tone without the telltale copper band, you could be holding one of the most valuable transitional errors ever made. The 1998 P quarter reminds us that even in the modern era, when technology and precision ruled the mint, human error still finds a way to slip through. And sometimes that mistake becomes a treasure worth thousands. So before you dismiss your pocket change as just spare coins, take another look. That simple 1998 P quarter could be one of the last true silver ghosts of the Washington series, a coin that bridges two eras and carries a story few people will ever believe. And if you think this one's wild, stay with me, because the next coin on our list pushes the limits of rarity even further. It's one of those discoveries that makes every collector's heart race. You'll see why in just a moment. Next up, we've got a coin that looks simple, old, and heavily circulated, but it's one of those quarters that can shock even experienced collectors when the truth comes out. This is the 1971 D Washington quarter. And believe it or not, a few of these have been discovered made from 90% silver, even though the Mint officially stopped using silver for circulation 5 years earlier. Let's start with what we can see. This coin carries all the marks of time. Scratches wear in a soft, dull gray tone that almost hides its details, but under that weathered look, there's something unmistakable about the color and texture of the metal. It's not the usual pale nickel. It has that deeper, richer silver tone. And for good reason. In 1971, the Denver Mint was transitioning fully to the copper-nickel-clad composition that replaced silver after 1964. But during that time, leftover 90% silver planchets from proof and commemorative production were still stored in mint facilities. Somehow, a small handful of those blanks were fed into the presses that struck the regular business strike quarters. The result? A coin that was never supposed to exist, a 1971 D silver quarter. To the untrained eye, it looks just like every other coin from pocket change, but to collectors, it's a ghost. A minting accident so rare that only a few have ever been confirmed. Weigh one, and the difference is obvious. A normal clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but a silver one hits 6.25 grams. That little difference has made ordinary-looking 1971 quarters turn into coins worth thousands of dollars overnight. Now, let's talk value. A circulated example confirmed to be struck on a silver planchet typically sells for $3,000 to $5,000. Higher-grade examples authenticated by PCGS or NGC can reach $15,000 to $25,000. But if one ever surfaces in mint state, flawless luster, full details, no scratches, it could easily break the $100,000 mark. And if it's a double strike or a proof-like finish, some collectors estimate it could top into $250,000. Think about that. A coin most people would overlook, worth as much as a brand new Tesla. And the best part, these errors weren't recorded by the mint. There's no official count, no paperwork, no explanation. That's what makes this coin such a mystery, so that every 1971 D quarter you come across could, in theory, be one of those few silver errors. You can spot one by checking three things: the color, the weight, and the edge. Silver planchets lack the copper stripe you'll find on normal quarters. Their edges are smooth and bright. And when you drop one gently on a hard surface, the sound tells the truth. A sharp, bright ring instead of a dull thud. Collectors love stories like this because they blur the line between ordinary and extraordinary. A tiny minting oversight. A moment of human error, and suddenly what was supposed to be just another coin becomes a life-changing discovery. So before you spend that old 1971 D quarter, take a second look. It might be more than just a piece of change. It could be a hidden silver survivor from an era long gone. And don't go anywhere, because the next coin on this list takes rarity to another level. So yeah, Famio, a silver Washington quarter that collectors have hunted for decades but almost never find in the wild. What's coming next will truly leave you speechless. Next up, we're stepping into the early 1980s, a time when the U.S. Mint was under major pressure to modernize, but a few coins slipped through that defied every expectation. This is the 1981 D Washington quarter, and though most people would see it as an ordinary coin, this specific year hides one of the rarest and most valuable off-metal errors in Washington quarter history. Let's start with what you can see. This coin carries years of honest wear, the kind that comes from decades of circulation. The surface is smooth, but the silver-gray tone stands out, a look that's far different from the copper-nickel blend you'd expect from the 1980s. There's a reason for that. Some 1981 D quarters weren't made from the standard clad composition at all. Instead, a handful were accidentally struck on 90% silver planchets that were never supposed to be used. Now, that might sound unbelievable, but it's happened before. During the early 80s, the Mint still had leftover silver blanks from proof coin runs, mostly used for collector sets. Somewhere along the line, a few of these blanks made their way into the presses for regular circulation quarters in Denver. The result? A coin that looks ordinary to the naked eye but weighs heavier, rings differently, and can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Here's the quick way to tell if you have one. First, the weight test. A normal 1981 D quarter should weigh 5.67 grams, but a silver one will read around 6.25 grams. Next, the edge test. Look for that bright, solid silver line instead of the usual copper streak. And finally, the sound test. Tap it gently on a hard surface. If you hear a high, clean ping, that's the sound of silver. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Along with the silver strike errors, the 1981 D quarter is known for another anomaly, a small batch with double dies on the obverse, most noticeably on the word liberty and in God we trust. If a silver planchet error also carries that doubling, the value jumps dramatically. In 2022, one of these error combinations was estimated to be worth up to $125,000. Yeah, a jaw-dropping number for a coin that originally cost just 25 cents. Even a circulated example of a confirmed 1981 D silver quarter can easily sell for $3,000 to $6,000, and higher grades, especially those authenticated by PCGS or NGC, regularly hit $20,000 to $40,000, and perfect or proof-like specimens have touched $90,000 to $100,000 at major coin auctions. Looking at this particular coin, you can see the signs of history, the faint shine peeking through the wear, the subtle gray tint that silver develops over decades, all clues that this might not be your typical quarter. Even the Denver D Mint mark tells part of the story. Denver was known for a few of the most spectacular off-metal mistakes in the late 20th century, and the 1981 batch is one of the most mysterious of them all. This coin proves a powerful truth. Rarity doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers hidden under scratches, wear, and time. And for collectors, that's exactly what makes it thrilling. The idea that a simple coin like this could carry a secret worth thousands keeps the hunt alive every single day. So before you spend or overlook a 1981 D quarter, give it another look. Check the edges, weigh it, and listen closely, because if you're lucky enough to have one of those accidental silver strikes, you're holding a mistake that turned into a masterpiece and a fortune that started with just 25 cents. Stay tuned, because the next coin in this list is going to push that thrill even higher. It's a piece that made even experienced collectors' jaws drop when it hit the auction block. Last up, we're ending this list with a coin that looks completely ordinary, but has one of the most shocking and mysterious backstories in Washington quarter history. This is the 1974 Washington quarter, and believe it or not, a small number of these coins were struck on pure silver planchets, making them some of the most valuable and controversial minting errors ever discovered. At first glance, it looks like a coin that's been through it all. The surfaces are worn, the lettering faint, and that once bright shine has turned into a soft gray glow. But it's that very tone that gives away its secret. You see, by 1974, silver quarters were supposed to be long gone. The U.S. Mint had switched to copper-nickel clad nearly a decade earlier, yet somehow a few silver planches from special proof production managed to sneak back into regular coin presses. Those silver-struck 1974 quarters are so rare that most collectors doubted they existed until a few surfaced and were confirmed by PCGS. Imagine a coin that looks like every other quarter you've ever spent, but under the microscope, it tells a completely different story. One worth tens of thousands of dollars. Now let's talk about what to look for. The first clue is weight. A regular clad 1974 quarter should weigh 5.67 grams, while a silver one hits 6.25 grams. It's a small difference, but it's the easiest way to spot a potential jackpot. The second clue is the edge. Check for that solid, bright silver band. If you see no trace of that orange copper core, you might be holding something extraordinary. And finally, there's the sound test. Tap it lightly on a hard surface. A silver quarter rings high and clear, while a regular one sounds dull and flat. Now here's where the value skyrockets. A verified 1974 silver quarter in circulated condition can easily bring $5,000 to $8,000. In uncirculated or mint state condition, that jumps to $25,000 to $40,000. But the real shock came when a nearly flawless 1974 silver planchet error quarter sold for more than $110,000. And collectors believe that if a pristine, proof-like example ever turns up, it could surpass $200,000. But that's not all. The 1974 quarter also has one of the most famous double die obverse errors, where the letters in God We Trust and Liberty appear doubled under magnification. Combine that doubling with a silver planchet, and you've got a one-of-a-kind rarity that could easily climb to $500,000 if authenticated and sold at auction. Looking closely at this coin, you can almost feel its history. The light scratches, the age patina, and the weight of time itself. It's a survivor. A piece that quietly defied the mint's standards and slipped into the world unnoticed. For decades, it's passed from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, its true identity hidden in plain sight. And that's what makes it so powerful. It's not just a coin, it's a mystery, a mistake that became a masterpiece. So before you spend that old 1974 quarter sitting in your change jar, take a moment, weigh it, check the edge, listen to the sound, because one of those plain gray coins might be worth more than you've ever imagined, a real-life treasure born from a simple minting error. And that's the beauty of collecting. The thrill of the unknown, the hunt for that one hidden gem that changes everything. The 1974 silver quarter closes our list with a simple reminder. Even the most ordinary coins can hold extraordinary stories.